Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode on our Open to Happiness podcast. I am your host, Nicoletta, and today I will be joined by Sue DeCaro, a coach and educator from South Carolina, USA. We will be talking about the relationship between conscious parenting and happiness today. And I can't lie, this is one of my favorite topics ever. Hello, Sue, and very welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. I would suggest before we start talking about conscious parenting and happiness to find out a little bit more about you. Who are you and how was your journey in life so far?
Well, that's a loaded question. So I am a worldwide coach and educator. I'm a motivational speaker and also an international best-selling author. I work with people to help them connect, love, and value themselves, as well as heal their inner wounds and connect with those around them. And it brings me such joy to do this work in the world. And I'll tell you why. Here's my story. I, as a parent of two girls, both in their 20s, suffered a lot trying to find my way in parenting. A lot of my pains and wounds from my own childhood were triggered and showed up and needed attention, but I wasn't aware of what was happening. And so I found my house full of chaos each and every day when my kids were young, trying to do a better job, going to every expert in town, taking my kids places, like really trying to figure this out. And I learned about conscious parenting and when they were in their teens and young teens, and learned there was a whole new way to parent children and see the child in front of us. And, there's a lot more to it, obviously, than that. But it was a real turning point in my journey, in my career, and, obviously in my life, bringing a whole new realm of parenting solutions, ideas, tools to my own family and seeing the changes that took place. And then I went back to school for my master's level certification in parent coaching because I thought, if I'm having all these struggles and challenges and living in chaos, and I'm doing all this work to see all the experts in the world, what's going on for everyone else? And so having, done a lot of transformational work myself and seeing the other side, I decided to really dedicate my life to helping people worldwide, not only raising children, but raising themselves, finding a deeper connection within, learning about their past wounds, bringing healing to their journey, and being able to live a more fulfilling life.
Sounds fantastic. So in a way, you're diving into this somehow prompted by your own personal challenges. You're discovering a purpose in life through looking within and realizing that something is not really working well and you're struggling. It doesn't seem to be an answer, right in front of the door. You need to search for it. You need to struggle a little bit.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think, we're all conditioned as human beings by so many different facets. We're conditioned in our own families to believe certain things, even to believe what happiness looks like, what we should strive for in order to be happy, not what uniquely brings us happiness and joy. But what the world tells us happiness is, it's success, or it's this, it's making a lot of money, having a fancy car, living in a nice house, and that's what you should strive for, when that may not be true. So, conscious parenting is about being aware of the person in front of you and what makes them grow and thrive. And so, I really think through this journey of my own in learning what makes me happy and what brings joy to me, and how my children have helped me to learn that. I'm teaching that as well to people all over the world.
Why can't we just be conscious without studying, without going through all of these difficult times?
That's a great question. We can't just flip a switch. I wish we could. I don't have a magic wand, nor does anyone else. So what makes us unconscious is our baggage, is our past wounds, is our history, is our conditioning, is, generations and cycles of conditioning as to how we raise children, how we were raised. Cultural conditioning as well plays a huge role in what we're taught. In some cultures, you strive for grades, and that grades are happiness, and you have to achieve, and achievement is, being successful, and that's all that's accepted. You can't ever fail. Actually, one of my clients told me that this morning. She wasn't allowed to fail. There was no opportunity for failure. It was unacceptable. These are our conditionings that play a role in who we are if we buy into them. And as children, we buy into them because when we don't, we get in trouble. We're, perhaps an outcast, or we're punished, or what have you. And in the past, these conditions were just handed down on a silver platter. I think now more and more people are starting to question how society is telling us to be, how our past parents, and grandparents were raising us to be, and, what the outside world is telling us it should look like. And we're beginning to look more internally in a conscious and intentional way to say, who am I and what's important to me? And how can I live my life in a way that fulfills me on this journey? And I think that's the difference, is to be conscious is really to take that backpack of stuff that we carry, the baggage, I like to call it, and take it all apart. And then take with us what speaks to us and leave the rest on the side of the road, so that we can live a life that really truly goes from the inside out of who we are, who we were born to be, what our blueprint was when we arrived in this world, and thrive in that way.
So lovely. So you're talking about the programming. Everyone has been programmed somehow within the family,
like a computer chip.
yes, absolutely. Within the family, within the school, and then our own culture. And then we keep being reprogrammed as we grow through life, even as adults, because we live into a social world. And then some aspects of this programming are not necessarily helpful, because much of it in terms of parenting comes through the transgenerational trauma. So maybe we can talk a little bit about this, how we internalize all of this pain that comes through generations in all sorts of ways, maybe as evolutionary memory, maybe as genetic memory, or even ways of being, ways of engaging, ways of thinking. What's been your experience around transgenerational trauma?
Well, I don't actually work with trauma because I'm not trained as a trauma specialist, but from the the outskirts of it, I see a lot of parents and individuals that have experienced things in their childhood that were never processed. Whether they've seen things or they've had triggered moments in their adult life that means something to them, but they can't quite connect the dots. So, if it's big trauma, I do not step in, but for, things where we need to go back and connect the dots as to why this is making, this particular incident that you're experiencing today so painful for you, it's usually a reflection of something that has happened in your past. So, there is some going back and unraveling past situations and experiences to understand how we got here. And I think for anyone, whether you've had trauma or not, it's important to understand our history in order to see why and who we are now. What were we told to believe that we actually buy into? And what was perhaps things that really don't speak to us? I mean, many of us just go through life believing what we were told and not ever discerning whether that's actually our value or just, what we were told we had to buy into. So I think there's a lot of in-depth studying that can be done about our past and asking questions about from our parents and grandparents to learn more and more about our history.
The past is so important, and it's vital to really unpack it as we go through life, because when we become parents ourselves, we without doubt we bring that luggage that we talk about. We bring it into our own new family, into our new world, and then the children will probably go through some aspects of our previous life experience without even knowing and without understanding the difference between what is real and what is not, what is actually coming from us as parents being passed on to them, and what is a natural way of engaging between parents and children.
Yeah, for sure.
I do understand that. So now we're talking about the past, how it plays into our life. Yeah. You mentioned at the beginning that you had some challenges yourself. Why was it difficult as a parent in America, let's say in this modern world, to handle parenthood as such?
I guess if I had to sum it up in a sentence, I think I was taught we have to fix the child. So,
Okay.
for so many years, I was trying to fix the child. And, I can say this freely because my oldest knows that she is my greatest awakener. She was not a child that needed to be fixed like I thought, like I was
Mm,
told, like all the
mm,
specialists, said, oh, we need to change this and behavioral, charts for that and various things, where I learned I needed to understand her in a better way, in a different way, what she needed, what helped her to grow and thrive. And so, I may be getting off topic of the question you asked, but I think this is where we can make a difference, is to understand and look at the child we have, not what we've been told to do, which
mm.
is fix the child. And, of course, in America and all over the world, parents come to me every day and say, I need you to fix my child, perhaps using those words, sometimes not using those words, but using words that mean my child's
Yes,
a problem. And
yes.
so, I think the biggest thing to remember as parents is our children are not problems. When their behavior is not what we think would be appropriate, and I put the appropriate in air quotes, or acceptable, it's because our child is having a problem. They're not a problem, but something underneath at the core is speaking through the behavior, because behavior is a form of communication. And so this is what I did not know, but I do know now, and knew, as my kids entered the teenage years, and was able to bring a shift to fixing them, to, fixing myself, because I'm the parent. So parenting is about me. It's not about them. Right?
Absolutely.
They're beautiful spirits here to grow and thrive just as they are. It's not my job to take an orange and make it an apple, but we do it. We do that. We try to reprogram or steer a child down the path we want them to take, because we think we know best.
Yes. And we place so much expectation on them, some of them quite unrealistic and quite harmful sometimes, isn't it? There's a lot of
Yes.
pressure on academic performance. There's a lot of competition. We kind
Mhm.
of push them to be great, to be the best, to perform very well all the time. And the anxiety is developing very, very early in life, especially now over the past couple of generations after the war. We've seen a lot of, focus on performing very well, on being
Right.
the best.
Right.
Um,
And at
and
what cost? At what cost? I
it's a
mean, mental
terrible
health.
cost.
Yeah,
Mm,
mental health is at an all-time high. We've got people really struggling with mental health. And whether your child gets an A or B is not the end all be all for their
mm.
success.
No, but at the end of the day, it's about our success because we, how we look at this relationship, it's like a transaction, isn't it? It's
It is.
about us as much as it is about them. It's how we present our children in the world and how we feel about ourselves, because we tend to obviously use it as a way of somehow establishing a social status ourselves. We are proud with our children when they do well, and then we feel somehow ashamed, potentially guilty when they don't come out perfect in every single aspect of life.
It's the Norman Rockwell painting. It's the
Mm,
dream in our minds that our children should look like this, right? So we start from their birth on, or whenever, they come to us onwards, in trying to create what we expect our children to look like. And when they fall short, which they will, because expectations are always, you know, I think started in a dream world, right? They're not
yes.
reality based. And so when they fall short, then, the guilt, the sadness, and sometimes the shame, which
Mm,
of course has a very big impact on our children when they feel like they're bringing shame to, or we're shaming them, or they're bringing shame to the family because they're not enough. And
mm,
there's enough adults walking around in this world, and I work with lots of people in this capacity that don't feel like they are enough as they are. And it's because this, thriving and striving to be more, to do more, to be more achievement oriented, to, you reach a goal and then you have to reach more goals because it's never enough. And so this comes through the family and through lots of our childhoods, as well as, through society, in the constant need to achieve.
Mm. Yes, and it doesn't seem to be stopping now with the technology, because now we see even more than we used to see in the past.
Right. Well, we see what people want us to see. Let's just look at it that way.
Yes,
Social media
yes,
is only what people want you to see of their life. It's not about all the things they don't want to, allow people in to peek in the windows and see what's really going on.
yes, absolutely. Well, we all seem to be somehow contributing to this false way of engaging with the world, bringing this social persona there that looks fantastic, is talking well, has only great news to share. And then inside, in our bodies, in our minds, in our souls, we could be, unwell, we could be crumbled, we could deal with all sorts of issues, because that's life.
Yeah.
There's always challenges somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
And we measure ourselves based on everything that we see.
Mm.
And, I think that's one of the biggest and most important things, is that we are enough just as we are. And, if social media makes us compare, then we need to stop participating in the, lack of reality that we see on there. So, again, this is part of the work I do, is we are enough as we are, and so are our children. Just being born into this world, they are enough, they are valuable, they are worthy. So, when it comes to social media, we have to help our children discern and understand the lack of reality that they're seeing there too. I don't scroll because of that. I don't scroll. And I do this work for a living. I just do not get into the habit of scrolling because it can make me feel not happy,
Mm. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's a battle that we're gonna struggle to win very heavily with these new
Yeah,
generations, with generation millennials. They are the digital generation. They've been struggling for a few decades now. But
for sure.
Generation Z and Alpha, I mean, I have a nephew, he's 10. He had a mobile phone since he was, I don't know, 1, 2. I don't even remember. It's terrible now. Yeah, yeah. And now part of the parenting relies with the virtual world. It's not
Mhm.
us really teaching them and nurturing them and molding them. It's actually that kind of, artificial intelligence, all of those algorithms that learn through deep learning, and they make decisions themselves that they haven't been programmed to make. And they decide what they give to our children, what kind of response they offer to the way our children engage with these digital tools, which is quite scary, isn't it?
It is scary, but I think as parents, we have to have deeper connections with our children to be able to communicate, through all of these things, through any social media, through any platform, through any digital learning, so that communication is at its highest level in the family, to be able to talk through even just the lack of reality that you might see on Instagram, or the number of likes that, as kids are young and just entering this world, the number of likes. We have to be part of this world with our children and for our children, and helping them navigate, not pretending it doesn't exist or turning a blind eye, but engaging with them so they can learn how to be digital natives, how to engage in the world that's in front of them in a way that is going to support their growth and help them to be aware of what's happening in front of them, and always to be able to communicate with us on deep levels, no matter what is happening.
That's so important, isn't it? To be present, be present in the experience of life, and do our best to observe and notice what's going on with them. Because
Right.
especially when they grow through the puberty and adolescence, I remember my son, well, in his early 30s now. But I remember very well what happened when he started to, disengage somehow with the family and spend a lot of time with the peers. It's very easy to actually lose track of everything that is going on out there, because you don't spend as much time with them. They tend to be out a lot, and then you get busy with your life. So it's about really being present and observing, noticing signs, and doing our best to communicate with them. I see sometimes in my therapy work, parents are struggling with their children since they are very, very young, like 5 and 7. There's no way of really spending time together and creating that kind of bond, having that solid relationship where one is there for the other, and children feel somehow supported, feel like they are safe and they can trust their parents to share their most intimate emotions, and they go through a lot of challenges themselves when they join groups outside in the school, in the group of friends. So there's a lot going on in there. How can we as parents then learn, because we don't have a parenting school yet? It's strange,
Well,
isn't it?
I feel like a parenting school, but I mean, here we are raising, human beings, and it's one of the hardest things that we will ever do, in my opinion. It's one of the hardest things. So I think, the first thing is we always have to create space for connection, for deep connection, for our children to be who they are with us. I don't care how old your child is. You need space, you need time with that child, sometimes in the child's world and sometimes in a family, connected moment. But if we don't have space, we're not going to know what's going on in our children's world. We're not going to know what they might need, what they need to share. And by space, it does mean, as you said, being fully present, not on your phone while you're trying to engage in a conversation with your kids, but fully present and there, so they know that there's a safe space for them to talk about what is going on. And this doesn't happen overnight. If kids feel like every time they do or share something, they're punished, or that we're looking at, everything they do, and we're taking their cell phone away, or we're taking, their car away, or their friends, or whatever it is, the punishments become the detachment. They actually form a wall between us and our kids, because kids don't want to be punished. And
Yes.
it's not teaching them right from wrong necessarily. It's perhaps shaming them in a way that doesn't feel good for them. I know I was punished as a child, and I know I felt a lot of shame, and I know a lot of parents, this is how we've been taught. So it's not that we have done a bad job. It's just, until you know better, how can you do better?
Yes.
Same as
Absolutely.
when my kids were little. I'm still apologizing to my kids, telling them I didn't know better. So I think that keeping these deep connections, and the conscious connections, intentional relationships with our children that are not based on, positive reinforcement and discipline when things go bad, but really about an honest relationship that's about two equals. And I like to say we are equals. We're just as important as human beings, child and parent, having that deeper conversation and that ability to share, pain, happiness, success, comfort, discomfort, even something that's absolutely horrible. I mean, my kids know they can tell me anything. And, I sometimes say, let me process that and I'll call you back, because I know that I need time, because
Yes.
my first instinct might be to overreact. And, we have to pay attention to that in order to keep that space available for our children to share, because once we start overreacting, we again disconnect.
Yes, because we go onto a low vibration, we lose
Right.
our consciousness, and of course we react from our tunnel mind, from our memory, from the database, not being present here and now, engage with this conversation, looking at all the aspects that are being presented to us. I think that that's so true. The problem we have is that we get trapped into our own struggles. We have our own relationship issues, our struggles in the careers that we have to develop and grow, and there's a lot going on in everyone's life, and sometimes we miss to see what's going on with our children. If we look at parenting these days from the from toddler age, you see parents giving the tablet to the children when they are very little. So they keep themselves busy playing a game, and they learn that one, they already know how to find their way, into the gadgets, because the parents need a bit of space for themselves to carry out chores, to do a little bit of work and
Sure.
so on. So it's complicated. It's hard to stay always on top, but at the same time, we can't say we don't care. We need to create time and space for that, because the way we engage with them right now, this is, the adults that will take over the world, and this is how they will probably be dealing with their children as well. And we keep doing it over and over again if we don't awaken.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the word awaken. And part of being a conscious parent is to be gentle with yourself. So if you pass your child a tablet at 1 and your neighbor is saying, "Oh, I can't believe your child has a tablet," we can listen to that outside noise that tells us we're doing something wrong. And then we come back and we try to figure out how to fix it. And I
Yeah.
think, really thinking about what you need as a parent, self-care being at the top of the list, filling your own bucket of energy before you fill anybody else's is huge. I don't like using the oxygen mask because I'm not a big fan of flying. So I don't like thinking of that thing dropping down from the ceiling. But filling your own bucket first so you have energy to take care of everyone else in your family is crucial. It's not selfish, it's selfless.
Mm.
And so, you may need to give a tablet to your child so that you can maybe, I don't know, listen to music or talk on the phone for a few minutes or have a moment that feeds your soul, that helps create the energy. And so, part of the conscious parenting is learning about you as a person, your baggage, as we spoke about, and what you need, how you fill your own energy tank. And then, secondly, is seeing your child clearly. Every single child
Mm.
is different.
Mm.
Seeing what makes them tick, what makes them thrive, how you can create the space for that particular child to grow and thrive in a way that serves them. And so, it's twofold. It sounds easy, but it's, as we all know, it's not. But
No,
it
it's
takes
not.
moment to moment attention and moment to moment forgiveness. And, in the next moment, you do something different than what you did in the last moment if it didn't work out. And so we have to be gentle with ourselves through the process of learning and growing as parents and human beings.
Yes, because if we don't love ourselves, it makes it difficult to love our children and others,
Right,
isn't it?
right,
And then
right.
we show a role model in the way they should engage with themselves and with others at the same
Mhm.
time. So beautiful. I love the way you speak about nurturing their gifts in a way. Maybe you worded it differently, but it's about really allowing that resource that they have inside to just come out. All their
Mhm.
talents, all their gifts, everything they bring to the world. Maybe they don't come out in the way we want them to be. I remember when my son was 3, I took him for piano lessons. He was so tiny that, the teacher said, bring him back at 5, then bring him back at 7. And at 7, he eventually started. But he was too little. He couldn't handle, the piano and everything else, and he wouldn't be able to comprehend. But as a parent, 30 years ago, I had that kind of, pressure inside. Do it now. Don't miss anything. Just start
Right,
early.
right.
And we still see parents doing this today. I wish I would have this understanding that I'm having right now many years back, so I can feel a little bit more at ease myself, not as much under that kind of pressure to do it right and do it now.
Well, the word right, I would like to first address because there is no right.
Of course.
It's what works for you, right? I mean, we feel like we have to get it right. We have to do it right. I
Yes.
hear parents say all the time, but it's too late, isn't it? It's never too late to change how you engage with your children, what you bring to your parenting journey, how you look within and heal your own wounds, or hire somebody to support you through that. It's never too late. But I think the most important thing is that the time that you spend looking at your child's gifts and strengths and honoring them will pay off hugely. Because when you are aware that your child has these gifts, you're not focused on their lack, right? You're not focused on what they don't have. And every child has beautiful gifts, even if they're the best debater. I have parents come to me and say, my child can argue till they're blue in the face. Okay, let's look at how that's a gift, because we have to reframe these things to see them in a different way so we can support our child with this gift positively. Because that person can be an attorney someday that loves that work because they're really good at debating, So I think that it's really important to see those gifts and strengths, and it's also important to let go of the dream. So before I had kids, I can remember being on an airplane, and perhaps many of your listeners can relate to this story. And I'm thinking, when I have kids, they are not going to be noisy. I mean, they're not going to sit on a plane and cry like this. Like, do something, people. What's wrong with this picture? It's too much noise. These babies are too loud. And the second thing I remember very distinctly was in restaurants. My sister had 4 children, and I remember her kids would get up and down at the table, and I was like, oh my gosh, these kids are just so rambunctious and noisy. My kids will never do that. So, here was this picture of what my kids wouldn't do already, because I was an expert, right? I was an expert as a parent, but I didn't have any children. And then I had children. I was no longer the expert, because obviously anybody with parents knows that this is not possible. And so these preconceived notions of what just these little things, the airport or the plane and the restaurant, were these dreams, these ideals that I had in my head that I thought were real. And there's so many others. There's so many others. If you're a pianist, you think your child will be a pianist. Well, what if they hate piano? Are they not given a choice? They have to follow in our footsteps because we say so. So the more we can see what our child is showing us and allowing them to unfold beautifully as they are, all of their gifts, all of their strengths, even the ones that we can't see as strengths right now, finding a way to find the positive in it, or help them to learn how to use what they have in this world for their own benefit. So we have to stop navigating this with our own agenda, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Well, very smart. Yes, because I think every single one of us, found ourselves in times when we thought, that's not going to be me. I will do much better than this. They are so undisciplined. This is impossible. And you keep talking about, other people's children. And then, of course, ours go through the same cycles, because that's life. And then we learn ourselves, and we wake up from this delusion that we create in our minds, that it has to be this way or that way. It's a dance that we do with our children throughout life. I think it's one of the most important roles that we have, when we bring everything we have, whoever we are, in this social persona, in this role as a parent. It's a gift, a massive gift that we receive, and we do the best we can with it in this life. The most important part is to really become conscious, as you mentioned, and keep the eyes open to learning, to experiencing, to wondering a little bit more our ways, their ways as well, building that rapport. It's so important. So now we're moving into linking this with happiness. So we're talking about so many things: how we learn to be parents ourselves, how we thought we're gonna do it different, and then we realized that it's not that simple. We acknowledge that there is no parenting, formal, serious, universal sort of parenting school on earth. I remember when my son finished university, he said, I don't think I'm going to have children. I think he was very affected. He studied psychology, and he's been through some clinical work, and he's been exposed to some, child abuse and different other things. He said, I think it's not right in the world to really allow everyone to have children. We should have a parenting license or something. People need a license to drive a car which is made of, iron and plastic on the streets. Yeah. And then you bring a life into this world, and no one is checking on you. Anyone can do it, and they can behave with the children however they want. And this is probably, it has a lot of truth to it. But this is where we are. And then the question is, how is this making us happy? Because many young people I I know some, have believed that they will feel fulfilled establishing a family and having children. And then they were faced with the reality of having a child and being a parent, which is a 24/7 for about 2 decades, at least, if not for the entire life. Yeah, they started to shift their perspective, and they realized this is quite a hard job. This is very, very difficult. So is there room for happiness when we become parents, in your view?
Absolutely. I think not only is there room for happiness, we need to find it. We need to
Mhm.
find our own happiness, because our children are not here to fulfill our agenda, to make us, whole in any way, shape, or form. That wholeness, that happiness, that, you know, um, those feelings inside come through us. So many people have children and think that they'll fulfill, their agenda, whatever it is they're looking in life. So, I think happiness can come in tiny little ways. It's not about, the biggest thing on earth, having like a huge car, a huge house, all these things that we've been taught are success. Happiness isn't about success in my book. Happiness is about the simple pleasures in life that make you feel joy, that bring you a sense of something, comforting and warm within, a smile, a new experience, gratitude about something in your life, um, exercise, self-care, healthy relationships, making a meal that you enjoy. I mean, the little joys in life are the things that we sometimes lose track of, because happiness becomes, grandiose. It's like this huge illusion of what should be. And then when it's not, we're disappointed and unhappy. So, I think as parents and individuals, we need to look at happiness from an internal place, not about achieving a specific milestone, getting something big, because we're always looking for more then, right? So if, our goal is to get a better job that we have than we have, and that will make us happy. Once we get that job, we're going to continue to look at goals to be achieved so that we can continue to be happier. We're just adapting the goals. And so happiness comes from within. It's the
Mm,
relationship that we have with ourselves and the world around us, but first with ourselves. So I think we have to be very careful not to look at our children as a fulfillment of our own joy. We
mm.
can have moments that feel great with them and feel full of joy and connectivity, but the happiness has to be developed within.
Yes, absolutely. And then in the way we experience happiness as parents, maybe to, stop focusing on what's missing, on their shortcomings, maybe celebrate what's beautiful, the miracle of life that they are, exactly as they are,
Yeah.
without trying to make them different, better.
I love that you just said that, because I think that we are, the models for our children in every way, shape, and form. And that's
Mm,
the good, air quotes, bad, and the ugly. So, modeling everything for our children helps them to learn and grow. And when we model how we deal with joy and happiness, and what joy and happiness looks like for us, like even a gratitude practice or a self-care practice that we can model that brings us joy, our children are learning from our behavior, not from what we tell them to do. It,
yeah.
it used to be that way. Like when I was a kid, my parents used to say, do what we say, not what we do. Well, that doesn't work today. And many parents are noticing that kids are doing what we do as they're adults, in their world, not what we tell them to do. So be a good model. And that's modeling, how to live a joyful life, not every moment, because that would be, not reality. Also, how to repair a relationship when something goes, south, or we do something that may have hurt someone else's feelings, maybe our child's, and how to own the decisions in our life and where we are going every step of the way. So control is something that I wanted to just bring up, because we can't control another human being. We certainly can't control our children past, I don't know, 8 to 10 months when they start to move about. We can't control whether they pick up a toy or, they throw the food on the floor. We think we can, right? We think we can control what our children do, but control is an illusion, especially in the parenting realm. You cannot control your child. And so the more we let go of that illusion, I think the happier we can be, because that's a heavy burden that we hold, thinking that we can control the behaviors of our children.
So true. And I think in terms of learning, the comment that you made is so, so real. I remember I read in Umberto Eco's Foucault's Pendulum, he mentioned something about children learning from us and becoming and growing into the people that they are based on what we do when we're not trying to teach them. So what they observe outside of those moments when we are trying to actually mold them, you know, which is so right. And this is how probably trauma and unhealthy ways of thinking and behaving are being transferred to the next generation, because they learn from us when we are not looking at them.
Right,
when we don't know that they are watching, in other words.
They're always watching. And not only
Yes.
that, they pick up on the energy. You know, kids absorb energy. So if you're having a really bad day and your energy is, you know, really negative and sad, and you're pretending that you're happy-go-lucky, your kids are not buying it, because they, you know, unconsciously feel your energy and feel tension, vibration, negativity,
Yes.
whatever it might be. And so, you know, we're better off being real in this world with our kids and everybody else, rather than trying to hide what truly is underneath, thinking that nobody can feel that energy. They
So
absorb it
important.
all, they see it all. We think they're not listening, and they hear it all. Yeah.
Absolutely. So important to be authentic, to be genuine, because this is how they learn to develop a strong character,
For sure.
to embrace wonderful values that will help them in life, whether we're going to be there for them as the years go by or not. They will have a strong foundation for life. And now that you mentioned times when we are not well, I think we need to acknowledge that as parents, we go through our own stuff. I mean, I work with people sometimes that don't have any clarity in life about their own life themselves. I mean, they feel stuck in every single way, on a personal level, on a professional level, sometimes even in the social life, struggling with friends. There's betrayal, there's all sorts of questioning, you know. And then they might struggle with their own confidence, with their own self-esteem and sense of self-worth. And it's hard to be around a parent that really struggle with their own life. They don't know who they are. They don't know why they are here. They don't have a purpose. They kind of lost it all. And it's very difficult for children to grow around people that struggle this way. And this is when probably there is no room for conscious parenting. I mean, there would be room if we would awaken, if we would make the step to realize that this is a message, this is coming as a lesson to teach us something, to bring something absolutely fantastic that might be transformational eventually, if we take the time to sit in that solitude and look inside and sit with ourselves and just, you know, go within and start that journey to understand what's been happening, and of course heal that past that probably is still very, very present in every single one of us, and it's coming back now and again.
It's an ongoing process. It's not
Yes.
done. You know,
Yes.
you may feel the pain, but it needs to be healed over and over.
Yes.
Just a little less. But you know,
Yes.
this is the journey, right? This is the
Mhm.
journey. We're not here to be perfect human beings each and every day. We're here to learn about our lives and do better and differently each and every day as we move through our own journey. But that clarity, as you so beautifully said, is huge. To know thyself, to give ourselves a chance to get to know who we truly are, what makes us happy and thrive and, you know, and comfortable in this world. Even if we're raising children and we're in the middle of that, to stop and be able to learn more about yourself. I mean, I don't mean stop parenting, but to take the time away from doing and be one with yourself, so you know who you are. You can hear your inner voice. Oftentimes we don't hear our inner voice because we're so busy listening to the external voice.
Mm-hmm.
And that's telling us it should look like this and it should look like that. But we need to get to know ourselves inside.
That's so important, because a parent that is going through depression or anxiety or is handling an addiction, as much as they love their children, genuinely love their children. They don't have that kind of, emotional availability. They don't have the time. They are trapped into their own obsessive thoughts, in their compulsions, in their wishes, and they are always somewhere else. And this is hard. It's becoming hard for children. Sometimes I don't know if this is a common experience, if you see this as well, but I work with young people that are healing themselves, and they are healing their ancestry as well. They work on healing their family dynamic, understanding their parents, grandparents, and how it's coming, where it's coming from in this personal history journey. It's very interesting, but it might happen that sometimes we are not able to do it all, and it's been left with our children to continue to work on this. But at least they need to see that we have made a start. And we have started really engaging with this beautiful inner work.
Yeah,
at least they understand that this is important, and they can see some change and transformation in us. And that's essential for the reparation that needs to happen between us and our children, which again, I think it's a lifelong journey.
For sure. We never arrive anywhere until we're gone.
Yeah.
And we arrived, right? Yeah, it's a lifelong journey. Absolutely right. And we just need to love ourselves every moment of the day, through it all, because we're here as humans, imperfect beings, doing the very best we can each and every moment.
Absolutely. So now towards the end, let's see how we wrap it up from the perspective of happiness. In your experience, how have you managed to go through difficult times and still remain open to happiness?
Well, I think that's a great question. I've been through lots of difficult times in my life. I was divorced from my kid's father, and that was a difficult time. And I think that I would be lying if I said, I worked to be happy. I was not happy. And I had to embrace that in those times too. So, lots of times we go through dark sides, or we go through, chaos or pain. And in order to get through the other side, we have to hold space for ourselves, and we have to be uncomfortable in the discomfort of it all, right? In the pain of it all. So, if I think of some of the things that have been very difficult for me, going through them, moving through them in a supported, loving way with others around me, like, relationships were very important, and having a tribe that supported me, close friends, and family, was very important in order for me to move through pain and come out on the other side. Again, learning more about myself and the strength that I hold within, because lots of times we don't think we have the strength to get through difficult times, right? I know I didn't think I did. And I know many people, that I've worked with all over the world question their abilities, their strengths sometimes to, raise their kids or do something during difficult times. So, I think to expect ourselves to be happy all the time is not realistic. To find our way through pain to joy, back to happiness, back to the little pleasures in life. And again, that's why I call them little pleasures, because happiness it doesn't have to be enormous, right? It doesn't have to be so large. It's the little things in life. So, for me, a cup of coffee in the morning brings me joy and happiness.
It's about being present,
I
isn't
think
it?
about it at night when I go to bed. Can't wait to get up for my fantastic cup of coffee. So these are the little things that we have to hold on to, especially in those times where we might be moving through something that's harder. It's really tough.
Yes. Wonderful. I feel that we will go through hardship. There's no doubt about it. If we are to be honest with ourselves, and we need to be open to these times of challenge, because they come with lessons, and they come with opportunities to grow and develop. They don't necessarily come to punish us, as some of us imagine. And I have imagined that myself. I thought that this is not right. It's like a curse. I mean, too much pain, too many issues, too many problems. But it turned out to be differently when I started to open my eyes and look and see properly. But then I think giving ourselves the chance to start this journey of self-discovery and heal and permit ourselves to transform is essential, irrespective if we are parents or not, if we parent little children or adolescents or grown-up children. We are still parents, and we will still be in that kind of role, have that hat all the time, care and worry and wish and and feel happy when we get a call or a text message when they fly the nest and so on, and miss those times when we used to spend all the time with them, isn't it, when they were little. Maybe a good way of closing would be to hear from you with your 3 best tips for conscious parenting. People that are not familiar with the concept, they have lived the way they've learned to live, and now maybe they hear for the first time that they can actually change somehow and become more present.
So 3 things. I think the first thing that we have learned through the pandemic the last 2 years is slowing down is an incredible opportunity to see more, to experience more, to be fully present with our families, our children. This last 2 years, I look at what it has offered us in learning and growing as parents and human beings, because, we know the downside is, been a lot of tragic, a lot of loss, a lot of illness. So when we can slow down in our lives and be able to be present in the moment, that's an enormous gift for ourselves and for our children. And by present, I mean non-distracted, fully engaged there in that moment with, whoever it is we're relating to, our children, our spouses, our families. And I think secondly is gratitude. I'm a big fan of gratitude. One of my kids has a gratitude practice. She writes, things morning and evening at 24. And it's, I've seen how it's really supported her. And right now she's got some tough stuff going on. So it's really been supportive for her to learn that. And she's learned that through, through my work as well. But one thing you're grateful for every day can really affect your mood and how you, connect with the world and yourself.
Yes.
And lastly, but probably most importantly, is self-care. Please remember, parents, that self-care is one of the most important things that you can give yourself in order to take care of everybody else. So it can be a 5-minute shower where you are mindfully aware of where you are, right? Mindfully aware that you're in the shower, you smell the water, because water does have, especially when you mix it with soap, has a scent, that you feel that, the heat or the, the droplets on your body, you connect with what you're doing in that moment. Not think about your to-do list and 100 other things that are going through your head. And this is part of self-care. It's the littlest thing that you can do. Maybe you're cooking dinner and you have a dance party in the kitchen, you turn on music. Find things that bring you fuel and energy to take better care of yourself so that you feel more energized and patient and tolerant and connected with your children. Because when we have nothing in the tank, we don't have anything to give. And then we're impatient and we're not that tolerant, and maybe we, lose it more often than we'd like to. So fill your tank first so that you can be as patient as possible in helping your children on their journey as well.
Powerful. Thank you so much. Thank you to all of you listening. It's been fantastic. And many, many thanks to you, Sue, for joining me here today.
My pleasure. It's been an honor.
That's it for now. Until next time, we are wishing you all good health and happiness.